Welcome to this edition of the Evening Review. My name is Taiwan Jabela, your host for tonight. Let's quickly look at today's front page of Namibian Sun. So tonight in the studio we are joined by Dr. Ndumba Kamwanyah, who is a political analyst and also an academic working for the University of Namibia, although he's here in his private capacity. Ndumba, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, let's we have a lot of ground to cover in the next 30 minutes.
Yes.
So let's start perhaps first with the press conference that the president held on Sunday to basically give the party's position on this Fishrot thing.
Yes.
I think initially the party wanted to be very silent on this matter.
Yes.
But I think as pressure mounts,
yes,
or they realized there was an element of obligation to actually say something.
Yes.
What did you read into what was said on Sunday?
Well, to be honest, I think that it left me with many questions, then answers. But I think what is important is that we should understand that press conference in the context of the election campaign that is ahead of us in November.
Yeah.
And also in the context that the party have realized that it will be a mistake to go into the elections with all these issues hanging around, and the SWAPO hasn't said anything to clarify. So what we have seen there is basically an election campaign for two main reasons. Yeah. One is that SWAPO is not going to lie down and let other parties and the public drive the narrative surrounding the Fishrot. Yeah. And they wanted to go there to separate the party from the actions of the individuals that are allegedly have participated in the Fishrot. And there is a good reason why they want to separate the party from the those individuals, because it will have negative consequences if they go into the election with the same issue, lumping some the party and the individuals. So that's what they wanted to achieve. And the second purpose is that they really wanted to activate their supporters and their members to defend SWAPO. And you heard from the top three, their main message was, you must defend SWAPO. We are not going to let anybody to tarnish the party that, the mighty party. So I think as much as the public wanted the president to name names and all those kind of things, I think their goal was those issues, and to prepare their membership and supporters for the elections that is coming.
For the elections.
Yes.
Now, Ndumba, one of the things, my reaction personally on my Facebook page on Friday, on Sunday, was to say that why didn't the president, who happened to be the president of the country and president of the party, why couldn't he treat individuals in the party that are cited in this Fishrot scandal in the same manner that he treated those in government, your Saki Shangalas and Bernard Esau's, because what he did in November last year, the president, of course, people say that he did it out of the pressure that was mounting.
Yes.
He summoned them to State House.
Yes.
And they gave their side of the story, which I suppose gave him a clear indication that they were indeed implicated in some way. Yeah. And they resigned. I don't think they resigned just out of courtesy. Yeah. There must have been an element of obligation, maybe from the part of the president, to say that you cannot continue, especially ahead of the election last year.
Yes, yes.
Imagine, I mean, you remember this just came on the eve of the general election last year.
Exactly.
Was it not going to be fair that he replicates the same energy in the party as far as those that are complicated or implicated in this scandal is concerned? Well,
from that perspective, you might be right, but also you might not be quite right for a number of reasons. Yeah. First of all, you are right that yes, it will seem fair if he followed the same action immediately after the Fishrot, which he did at the government level. And because he is the head of the party, I think he can still call in those individuals that are implicated. Yeah. But you must know that he's a politician and we don't know what is happening behind the scene. Yes. That's one aspect. Yeah. But I think also it's because it might be a little bit of a catch-22 situation, because you remember the Fishrot with the Esau team, it was just boom, and everything was pointing to them, and they could not really stay in their positions, and there was already an arrest, a warrant of arrest at that time. Yes. But from the individuals that are implicated, they haven't been arrested yet. So I think he has to be careful, because the investigation is not yet done, and that's why you heard him referring to the systems and the institutions and the processes. So I think if there is a warrant of arrest from the ACC or the Minister of Justice, I think we will see a similar situation where people will be summoned in, and maybe even be asked to vacate their position within the party. Indeed. So I think that's what he's waiting to hear, to be certain that there is, a case. Yeah. So far, what we have heard is through media, and sometimes you don't want just to act on that.
Now, Ndumba, if you are a Bernard Esau, or lying in your jail bed, and you read the papers on Monday morning about what seems to a lot of people to be the protection of individuals in the party, over the very same scandal that got you in that bed in jail, what will be going through your mind at that moment?
Well, it depends on what you know in relation to the case happening. So if he happened to know a lot, that there were individuals that are involved, and that there were people that knows the situation, and I think he will be, in a rage that they are being treated differently. So it will determine in terms of what you know and what you have done.
Yes. Indeed. Now, Ndumba, do you think that the ruling party, our ruling party, actually understands the gravity of this matter? Because the fact that the party for a very long time was holding its hands when it's being implicated in an issue that involves national resources. These are national resources.
Yes, yes.
Fishco is a state-owned entity. It's not even a government entity to say maybe it belongs to the government of the day. It belongs to the state. It must outlive the Geingob administration. It must outlive all other subsequent administrations that are coming. It must be there. It must outlive all of us.
Yes.
So when national resources are seemingly squandered, and the nation is demanding those answers. And for a long time, the party said basically, sorry for my choice of word, but to go to hell.
Yes.
I mean, is that an indication of a party really that understands the gravity of this matter?
I think, I don't know what was going in within the leadership structures. And I think, and I agree with you that the mistake they made is to ignore this issue when the name of the party was implicated. But I think also they have realized the gravity of the issue. And as I said at the beginning, that they will not want to go into the election with this issue pointing deeper and deeper to the ruling party. The mistake they made with the Fishrot the first time when the issue came out is by not speaking out at the party level. And we know that the president talked about it at the government level, but the party was so mute, and it seems that the outcomes of the 2019 elections was affected by that silence of the ruling party itself. And so it seems now, I think they want to do things differently, and that's why we have seen that press conference, and they have realized that this issue cannot be left hanging out before the elections, and they also have realized the gravity of it now.
Indeed. The last question on this subject before we move to the next, Ndumba, is the president on Sunday seemed to hammer too much in the direction of suggesting that that any money that might have been received by SWAPO may be construed, any Fishrot money that has been received by SWAPO or SWAPO members in the build-up to those campaigns must be construed or must be seen in the context of political donations. And I find it very, very dangerous that any state-owned enterprise would involve itself in any manner in the space of political donations. That is a very dangerous terrain, unless you spread the cake towards everybody. To say, as a political party, I mean, as an institution, we feel that we have some funds to save, and therefore, for all political parties, might be which will still be wrong in any case, but just any suggestion that this was a political donation, that would be ridiculous.
Well, I say, he's a politician, and he will try by any means to come up with a solution. And so that's why he's linking it to political donations, because we know that it's not just WAPO that get donations. Other official opposition party get donations.
But not from SOEs.
Yes, not from the state-owned companies. But what we have to know that the implications is that we must first know that politics and money is a dangerous game. Because when you have politics that is based on big donations, whether foreigners or internal, the democracy is in danger. Because those people that donate, they don't just donate because they like the party. No, they donate because they have their own interests. When you come into, and expectations, when you come to power, they want to influence the policies in the direction that they want them. So I think it is important that politicians, including, which I know that many of the politicians know, including the president himself, know the implication, and that it must not be taken lightly. It must be condemned, I think.
Indeed. Let's move into opposition politics, Ndumba.
Yes.
The PDM, yesterday, there was a landmark ruling,
Yes.
which said that, which actually essentially says that PDM must remove 6 of their 16 MPs and replace them with new people. You would know the background of this case. What do you make of it?
Well, it's getting interesting. So it's not just SWAPO that has its own issues.
Yes.
Opposition parties also have their internal squabbling.
Yes.
What I can make out of it is that it actually reminding me of, I think it's Nudo, before the elections 2019. They had a similar case where they were divided and before they went to campaign. So you don't want to find yourself in that situation, because what it is pointing to the unity within the party. So no matter whether because Venani said that he's going to appeal, no matter the outcomes of the appeal, the unity within the party is disturbed. And that is not a good position for any party to go into the elections. It will have a serious impact.
Indeed.
And it will eat into your constituencies and your electoral base.
Indeed. So, and that is the point that I'm making, that we often over focus on SWAPO, which comes with the territory, of course, because they're the ruling party. They ought to account more than others. But our opposition are a mess to a very great extent. I mean, for the PDM case, for example, I am just saying, Ndumba, that if there's a gazetted list, because when you gazette something, even a piece of legislation, a law or whatever, once it's gazetted, it becomes a legislative tool by which the nation must now behave. But when you gazette, we have this list gazetted. If a political party presents Ndumba on its list, and I, as an individual, I'm a friend of Ndumba, I'm a cousin of Ndumba, I give my vote to PDM on the basis that they have my friend on their list. And then after the election, my friend gets removed from the list. That is fraud. It cannot be correct.
Yeah. No, you are right that, what do they say? They say that the tallest tree catch the most wind. And that's what's happening with the attention on SWAPO, because it is the governing ruling party that the public's attention are mainly focused on the party, to the neglect of the opposition parties. But that being said, I think you are right that especially the official opposition party is a shadow government. It must be subjected to scrutiny in terms of how it does its affairs. It must demonstrate that it is ready to become, a government, a ruling government, if the Namibian people vote for the party. So unfortunately, things like this, what we are seeing that are playing out in court, it does not show good, it does not give good impression to voters to vote for an alternative government. And that's the mistake, I think. This goes to all other opposition parties, that they don't really scrutinize their own individual actions, including the mess that is happening within their party. They like to point out what SWAPO is doing wrong, rightly so, but I think they must also introspect on their affairs.
Indeed.
Yes.
And that is the issue also, Ndumba, that the opposition in general, and perhaps that is why they stagnate. Your RDPs are nowhere to be found today. CODs are almost non-existent. And it all started with internal squabbles.
Yes.
Factionalism, people fighting for things like that. But this is an election year. We understand that people like Panduleni Itula is now coming up with an organization of his own, a political party. Affirmative repositioning, trying to contest in Walvis Bay and Windhoek, I understand. So these dominant parties cannot be found in shambles. They'll be, especially in the build-up to this election, they may be in trouble from these parties.
You mean from the new
formations?
Formations.
Yes.
Well, I don't see it that way.
Yeah.
I think that their traditional constituencies and electoral vote or electoral base are not threatened that much. Yeah. When you look at the Itula's party and the AR, it seems that the threat is to SWAPO, because many of their voters in one or another way are mainly coming from Team SWAPO, and then the younger people. Those young people traditionally have been voting with their parents. Yes. But what we have seen last year, that they diverted from voting with their parents or their families, and they voted with they voted for an alternative candidate. So the threat is between those three party, or I don't know whether we can call AI as a party, an organization. So it's going to be a three-way. SWAPO fighting to fend off those two, because they are entering the traditional base of the ruling party. And then we are also going to see, especially in those areas where AI is going to contest, and if Itula's party is also going to contest there, they are also going to take voters from each other, because large number of the people that voted for Itula came from young people that support AR. So it's going to be interesting. And also maybe the threat for SWAPO when it comes to other opposition parties is the South. LPM also poses a very threat to some of the constituents that SWAPO have been winning. Yes. So, I mean, there was a lot of suggestions at the time that PDM's dramatic rise in last year's elections, winning, I think, maybe 11 extra seats. Yes. I think they had only 5. Yes.
Then they won 16. That's 11 more. This was credited a lot to the drama that was going on in SWAPO with Itula and the factions there. But if Itula goes and forms his own party and all these other things, can PDM also really retain that level of support? Because what they exploited maybe doesn't exist this time around. Yeah, so that momentum, let's call it, the Itula momentum, especially with the young voters. Yes and no. Yes, as I said, that when you look at the voters that voted for PDM, largely older voters, and those older voters, their beliefs are entrenched. So it's difficult for them to still move away from PDM. And yes, because of that, dramatic and that was going on, the party also benefited, especially because we know that it fielded young people also. So they exploited that gap to move towards younger, parliamentarians. So that gave them a momentum, and I think they are probably still going to exploit that approach. We might see a lot of youthful and young candidates taking up some of those
contest or contesting in some of the constituencies. And also, I think it also did very well in terms of fielding women, and that also helped the party to gain the support that they did. But I still don't see, especially now that Itula's party and AYA are also going to clash a little bit. They are not going to, unless they are going to exchange. You know, if you field a candidate in this region, we will not go there, we will feed here. And I may also see the other opposition party, especially LPM and PDM, doing the same strategy, including probably you know, cooperate with Itula's party and AYA to, because it is impossible that maybe PDM, because now it has gotten a larger budget, will be able to field candidates in all the constituencies, but I don't see it in that way. But for Itula's party and AYA, I don't think that they will have the resources, even the human resources on the ground to field many candidates in many constituencies.
No, because for AR, what I understand, I think what I've seen some documents from ECN that suggest they're only going to contest in Windhoek and Walvis Bay.
Yes.
I suppose they will have resources for that. But you are right completely on the likes of.
So if they do that, then what it means is that most likely Itula might not contest in Windhoek and Walvis Bay, in the exchange that in other constituencies where his party will contest, AYA will mobilize their supporters to vote for Itula's party. And I'm thinking that we might see Itula fielding more in the northern part, excluding the two Kavangos and the Zambezi region. But it will also it will be also a political suicide if he does not field in Walvis Bay, where he done very well and where he has most of his support.
I'm afraid to tell you, Ndumba, that I'm actually strongly sensing an element of contestation already between AR and the Itula party, because there are talks in Walvis Bay in particular that the Itula foot soldiers are supposedly bad-mouthing AR. I spoke to Job Ampanda last week. I think we had an article in Namibian Sun where Job seems to have been dismissing this and saying, look, well, they are not a competition to us. But you are completely right in saying that eventually there will be that contestation. It will just come naturally, because if AR says we are going to contest in Walvis Bay and Windhoek, these are very important cities. This is the seat of government. There's absolutely no way that any party will say, no, we will not contest Windhoek. But the final question to you, Ndumba, before we wrap up, is around LPM. They came to parliament, a very young party, surprised everybody by gaining 4 seats, and they entered that house with fury and fire. That I had Bernardo Swartboy in that very seat where you are last week. And you know, he tried to say that, look, that is part of our strategy, because he used the phrase, we are not Catholic nuns. Saying if you go to parliament in a Swapo-dominated parliament, and you go there as gentlemen politicians, you will not make the mark that you intend to make. But the rhetoric, that the choice of words, the choice of tone, the choice of language that they use in parliament, is that what will win? Will that actually work in their favor, out of their favor, ahead of the election?
No, that is not the politics that we want to employ here in Namibia.
Yeah.
It might have worked for EFF in South Africa.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of their politics. The nature of our Namibian politics, I know that we like to follow the politics in South Africa, and we like those antics display in Parliament, but that will not win votes for LPM if that is the approach they are going. Namibians, by nature, I don't think they will support. And you have seen how the public responded to their display in Parliament. What will win with the PM voters is their logic. You know, they are very young, they are good researchers, they can articulate those issues in a very logical and simple way so that each and every voter can understand. I think that is their strength. The jumping around and shouting and will not win them support.
Indeed.
Yes.
Ndumba, thank you for coming through. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
We cannot touch, but it's good.
Okay, that was Ndumba Kamwanyah. He is a political analyst, one of the leading political analysts in the country, working for the University of Namibia. Of course, he was presenting these views in his own capacity, but I hope you enjoyed his input to the discourse that is happening in the country at the moment. Good night.